Looks like we have audio going in. Welcome to those that are online already. Sorry, we had some technical issues with our internet here. We had to solve. Okay, well, we'll get going. We've got a bunch of people online, and as many of you know, we do these sessions monthly, both online and in person. Got a small but mighty group in person with us today, and some new Floridians that have joined us. So we welcome them from wintry Virginia. So you'll have a beautiful winter down here with us this year for the first time. I know some of the people we may have online may be first-time Florida homeowners. They may be long-time Florida homeowners. This little session works for everybody. They might be a realtor that's working with new buyers or selling homes. We're going to cover a lot of things, whether you're buying or selling, or just to give you a good update on how save our homes and portability and all those things that are kind of a mystery to a lot of homeowners work here in the state of Florida. We're a unique state. We have more exemptions than any other state that we offer, but we also have a property tax system that can be a little bit hard to digest or follow sometimes. So we'll try to demystify it as much as we can. I'm joined today by my colleague, Kevin McKeon. He is our Deputy of Assessment Administration at the Property Appraiser's office. And if you don't know me yet, I'm Mike Twitty, your Pinellas County Property Appraiser. Been in office for almost 7 years now and proud to serve you all in this role. We're always trying to come up with new innovative and efficient solutions for you all to make it a little easier for you to conduct business with us and to understand how things work here at the Property Appraiser's office. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into the presentation and then I'm going to get into it a little bit and then I'm going to hand it over to Mr. McKeon. So I'm going to share my screen. Get into the right window here. Actually, that's not the one we want. That's the one we want. Okay, so you're seeing it there. Looks like we're good to go. All right, excellent. So you can see on here, there's a lot of stuff we can touch on. Start off here with who does what. We've probably have several people online, and we know we have some in seat here with us that that came from other states, other jurisdictions, where people in some of the leadership roles, for example, they may have called them an assessor instead of the property appraiser where they came from. They may have been appointed or hired as opposed to elected. Here in Florida, each of the 67 counties, you have 5 constitutional officers. And those 5 constitutional officers are your property appraiser, your sheriff, your tax collector, your supervisor of election, and your clerk of the court, who is also the comptroller for the county. So a little different than it is in a lot of other states. But what's great about it is it creates separation between the entities that are the taxing authorities, because the taxing authorities set rates, they set tax rates or millage rates, as we call them. And for example, the property appraiser is separate constitutionally elected office that runs a bit independent. It's connected to the county, yet you have an elected, somewhat of a COO, CEO, which is me, over the top, which is the watchdog for the citizens and is also separate from the taxing authorities. So we're setting the values and we're administering the exemptions. I think some of that is laid out here. Oh, it's a different slide. I'll get there in a second. So we're administering those exemptions, setting those values, and then the taxing authorities are setting the rates. So those two things times one another result in a tax bill, but that way you have independence going on between those two things instead of one party controlling both. So I am often confused. Oh, I got a happy finger here going on with the tax collector. Um, he is located in several of the same buildings we're in because obviously we are able to provide service together. It makes sense for a lot of our citizens here in the South County Service Center. Those that came in today actually came through the tax collector's lobby essentially because they have the entire first floor and then came up to the second floor where we are located. So things the tax collector does very different from the property appraiser. So obviously they do send the tax bills out. We are responsible for the trim notices that went out in August. Tax collector sends the bills, which will come out in early November. So two different functions there. Obviously, they also handle the motor vehicles side. So if you need a driver's license, you need a concealed weapons permit, those types of things. You can even get a fishing license. All of those things can happen at the tax collector's office. So here at the property appraiser's office, we're responsible for valuing every parcel within our county as of January 1 each and every year. That's roughly 450,000 parcels of real estate and tangible personal property. So it's a big responsibility. We have a staff of, I think we're about 122 in seat right now that has to handle all of that. And about 50 of those are appraisers. And then we have other functions. We've got an IT department. We have mapping and GIS and land records where we're analyzing deeds for ownership changes and sales. So there are a lot of facets going on. Obviously, we have an administrative arm, customer service, exemptions team, just a lot of pieces within our office. So we're multidisciplinary in what we do. So the taxing authorities, I mentioned that. So here in Pinellas County, we actually have approaching 60 different taxing authorities. So those are your unincorporated county, all your municipalities. We have 24 separate municipalities within Pinellas County. And for those new residents here, so this is kind of an interesting fact. Pinellas County is the second smallest county in landmass in the entire state of Florida. And yet we're the highest in density, meaning most people per square mile. We have about 3,500 people per square mile. Doesn't really feel like that compared to some of the other counties in the state. Broward is half of our density, but they have a bunch of open lands and wetlands. They have part of the Everglades, the same with Miami-Dade. So if you took if you carved it down to cut out the Everglades in both of those, they'd probably win out on density by a little bit. We'll have to do that calculation someday. But your taxing authority, so that's your school boards, your juvenile welfare board, your fire districts, all those things fall under everyone that is providing services that are funded by property tax flow through that. Like I was saying, nearly 60, 56 different taxing authorities. There's a sample of some of them. And the taxing authorities, there's a budgetary process that happens throughout, starts really they get started after we arrive at our value. So our effective date of value is always January 1. However, we don't get through all those 450,000 parcels until about June and July. July 1 is our delivery date of all of our values as of that effective date of January 1. So then the taxing authorities start using that data to work into their budgets, looking at where the millage rate should be in order to provide the services that they need to provide for the residents. So property tax timeline. Again, that is January 1, important date. March 1, in our office, that's an important date. That's the deadline to timely file for homestead exemption. We do allow late files into roughly mid-September, but we highly encourage people to get those in before the March deadline if possible. It's a lot easier for us to approve those quicker. Kevin and his team have done a great job with process improvement in that department. Now, what often could take 6 months for someone to get a homestead exemption approved, we've gotten down to over 80 to 85% of those are occurring within 48 hours. So unless we run into a unique situation, something something on the deed, that triggers an anomaly, a change in a legal description, things like that. Those can hold things up longer because we need to communicate with the property owner. But if there aren't any issues on it, we can turn those around quite quickly as long as we can get the proper information from the applicant. July 1, I already talked about that date a little bit. That's an important date for us. That's when we certify our preliminary tax roll. And let's jump into other important dates for us. The trim notices go out in August, around that August 19th date. And then we extend the roll to the tax collector in October, and then they mail the bills in November, early November. And then the tax bill payment deadline is March 31st. But if people pay early, they pay in November of the same year that the bill comes out, you get a 4% discount. So that discount goes down by 1% each month until you reach the month of March when there's no discount. So it goes 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, essentially, the discount. And if your taxes are escrowed with through your lender, they always pay in November. So they take care of that for you. So that really only applies more so to those that are free and clear or have elected to pay their tax bills direct. So let's jump into how the taxes are determined. So if most people are used to, when they hear appraisal, they're used to seeing the appraisal for their home. They worked with the lender ordered the appraisal came back, and it might have been a refi or an acquisition. And there's usually only one value you're dealing with. It's an as-is market value, typically. There are other versions, but that is the general the value that most people are accustomed to seeing. So that would be most equivalent to what we have. Unfortunately, we have to deal with 3 values. Again, it's part of that Florida property tax law that is a bit more complex. So just market value is our estimate of market value as of that January 1, based on sale activity from the year prior. So we're always lagging, but we're trying, and we lean heavier on fourth quarter sales too, because we're trying to get closest to that magic January 1 date. The next value that we deal with is called assessed value. Now, assessed value can be the same as just market value. Right after the first January 1 that you're in ownership, but then after that, it is likely going to be different. And we'll explain why, and that's because of a thing called the Save Our Homes cap, and that creates a differential there. So we'll address that. And then we have taxable value. And taxable value is after you deduct exemptions away from assessed value. So assessed value minus exemptions equals taxable value. And when you see the word ad valorem is simply Latin for according to value. So that means taxes that are tied to value. You'll see some other terminology that will say non-ad valorem. And non-ad valorem would be a special assessment that can be a flat rate, and it's not based on your value. So that's the basic formula is the value that we arrive at, which would be taxable value, be it as we've gone all the way down, deducted exemptions, that's taxable value, times rate, which is your millage rate, equals the ad valorem taxes. Here's a simple example here on $100,000 of taxable value times 20 mils. 20 mils is equivalent to, you basically move the decimal place several places to the left. It's 20 mils is equivalent to about 2%. And that's where you get the $2,000. So you can see here, 1 mil is equivalent to $1 of every $1,000 of taxable value. And each of those taxing authorities we talked about, they all have different millage rates. So all those little different tax rates. And if you look on the trim notice, you will see all of those broken down. You'll see each taxing authority and you'll see the rate next to it, and you'll see the taxable value that applies to it and any exemptions that come off of it. And we do a session each year around before the trim notices come out, and we break that down in great detail. Kevin and his team do a really good job with that one. And that session is still available online. We have a YouTube channel you can reach directly through our website. Look for the little YouTube logo up in the top right corner, and you can go through all of our past sessions. So non-ad valorem taxes, those are the ones not according to value. So that's your special assessment. It might be utility undergrounding, street lighting. Oftentimes it's fire and rescue or solid waste. Those are typically a flat rate that are applied throughout a district. And that would be separate from ad valorem. Now we're going to move on to how we value. So in appraisal, you have 3 different approaches to value. So you have the sales comparison approach, which most people are familiar with, especially with single family. That's where you're gathering comparable sales within a neighborhood, hopefully in close proximity to that home and similar in quality and condition and size. And you make some adjustments if necessary, and you use that as your best representation of market value as of that time. So that is one of the principal approaches to value, particularly with single family. You also have what's called the cost approach, where you're essentially building up the cost to reproduce that house today, less depreciation, plus land value. So that constitutes your cost approach. And then an income approach, which is primarily most applicable to income producing properties. So a shopping center, an apartment building, things that, are generating a steady income stream. That approach is dealt with as well. And there we're analyzing the income, the expenses, vacancy rates, capitalization rates, trying to understand what what buyers in the market that are investors are paying for these properties to determine the market through the income approach. So in a perfect world, all 3 of those approaches would come out with the exact same value. But I will tell you right now, the world is not perfect, and I know we've got people in the room that know that firsthand. And buyers have emotions, and they buy on emotion sometimes, and things fluctuate with supply and demand, and so there's a lot of moving parts. So those approaches are all helpful, but usually you have to really look at the property type to figure out which ones are going to be most applicable within that market area. So, and as always, if you have any questions, we roll our values, those January 1 values, will start to pop onto our website about the second week of July each year. So you can check before we ever get to trim notices. You can go online and start to look at what your values are going to be before the trim notices come out. So you can look at that. You can also look and make sure your homestead is on there, those types of things. If you have any questions at all, it's a great time over the summer, between that July and August timeframe. Call us up, ask for your area appraiser. They will walk you through how they arrived at your value, explain things to you. A lot of people that are new buyers, the number 1 call for us is new buyers who bought. Somebody didn't tell them about the Save Our Homes cap reset. They crossed their first January 1. This is going to be the first year that they get their own trim notice with their name on it and their own tax bill. They're not paying a portion of the prior, they're not benefited by the sellers Save Our Homes cap and taxes any longer. And they cross that first January 1 and that cap resets on them. And because of the high value growth that we've had here, particularly since the COVID years, that cap reset can be quite devastating for people if they weren't informed ahead of time that reset can occur. So, there's a lot of great realtors and lenders and title agents out there that do a great job with their clients and inform them ahead of time to give them that heads up. Hey, yes, what you're seeing here are really seller's taxes. Be prepared, put some money aside. We're going to escrow you on the seller's taxes. However, come next year, you're going to see a cap reset. You're going to go to market value and you're going to establish your own Save Our Homes cap, but you're going to be at a higher level on value than the prior owner was for taxable value. So very important to know. And Kevin will be digging into that a little bit more as we get into this. Also wanted to point out, if you don't get satisfaction with our office with an informal meeting on value, you can always file a value adjustment board petition. That's a VAB petition. That needs to occur. File that petition within 25 days after receipt of the trim notice. If you've already had informal conversations and you still don't have a meeting of the minds there, you can file that petition, and that will allow you to go before a magistrate who's independent, hired outside by the clerk's office. So we're not part of that process, other than we show up just as a party at VAB. So the petitioner comes in, they can bring their evidence. Property appraiser's office comes in, brings their evidence, and then the magistrate hears both sides and makes a determination. If it's related to value, it will be an appraisal magistrate. If it is related to exemptions, it will be a legal magistrate. So you'll have an attorney present determining those. We're going to skip this because we don't have enough hands in the crowd right now. Okay, so this is just going to give you a quick little peek of value trends within our county and show you why those cap resets are very substantial compared to what they were in years past. This graphic here takes you all the way back to 2005, and you can see when the last peak was before the Great Recession started. The blue bars represent all of the aggregate of just market value as determined by our office. The gold bars represent taxable value. The difference between the two is a function of those assessment caps and those exemptions that we've talked about. So you follow this blue line and you can see, especially from 2020 on through 2023, those values jumped substantially. Taxable didn't rise as rapidly because of those assessment caps that were holding those amounts back. New construction has been hovering about $1 billion a year over the last several years. So that brings total value within our county up to about $213 billion of real estate and tangible personal property, and about $124 billion of taxable value. This paints it here too. You can see here's a 10-year trend of single family transactions. We hit our peak in 2021. We're at median price per square foot of $240 a square foot, and that was an increase of about 21% over 2020. We went up another 21% in 2022 over 2021, and through the first half of 2023, you can see it has slowed down dramatically, and it's about 1.8%. So we're watching closely over the back half of this year now. And then our median sale price. I want to point something out here. You can see here, this is a 1-month snapshot from the Pinellas Realtors. So almost $479,000 for a median sale price on a single family residence as of August of 2023. And you can see it was substantially lower for the first half of 2023 as a whole. So it was 427. So that difference, don't get caught up by that too much, because you got to remember this number here is simply just the sales that occurred in the month of August, as opposed to the one before is over 6 months of sales. So a little bigger sampling. Month supply still hanging there under 2 months. Still a seller's market at this point. And condos and townhomes have crept up to a little over 3 months supply. Our sales trends, transaction count definitely down, but our prices have for the most part been holding. But you can see the solid lines represent the first half of this year. This would be single family, this would be condominium. And you can see the prior years, they get fainter as the years go back in time. And you can see that we're kind of getting back in line with where we were last year. We'll have to see. Traditionally, we do fall off in the back half of this year, our back half of the year. And 2021 was a bit of an anomaly. We kept more of a flat line. Taxable value of new construction. A lot of people are curious where that new construction comes from, in a county that effectively appears to be built out. So 57% of it is in the residential arena. So that's single family, condo, townhomes, and manufactured homes. And a lot of that is redevelopment. So it's new homes and it's additions. So new construction, you added a new extra bedroom, what have you, onto a home. About 25% of the new construction is multifamily rental apartments, and then the balance of about 18% is your other general commercial property types. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. McKeon. He's going to jump into exemptions and save our homes cap and all that interesting stuff. Turn it over to you, Kevin. Yeah, should be good.
Thank you, Mr. Twitty, and good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us. Um, Why apply?
How about now?
Test 1, 2, good.
Maybe this one was muted.
You're good. Good? Okay, great. So if you purchased a home in 2023 and it happened to have homestead on it, it either did or it didn't from the prior owner, that is not your homestead exemption. That is the prior owner's homestead exemption. That will be removed December 31st. Taxes are on a calendar year basis, January 1 to December 31st. So come January 1 of 2024, you have to apply for homestead. It doesn't automatically carry over to the next owner. So once you apply for homestead 1/1/24, that value resets, as Mike talked about. Okay, your market value will be equal to your assessed value at that point in time if you're a brand new resident in the state of Florida. We'll get into portability in a minute if you already owned a home in Florida that you sold. So market equals assessed to January 1 after you buy. You apply for now for homestead for 2024. That is your homestead exemption forever, as long as that is your residence, as long as you own and occupy it every year thereafter. That is your exemption. You don't have to reapply. You don't have to do anything else other than notify us if there's a change in status. One of the owners moves out, one of the owners passes away, there's a marriage or a divorce, anything like that. But if the status remains the same as when you applied, there's nothing you need to do. It's quite an easy process. There are other exemptions that are listed on this page. All of them relate to, one, being over 65 and having an income lower than a certain threshold. That's the senior exemption. Being a widow or widower gets you an additional $5,000 exemption. Being disabled, either a disabled person or a disabled veteran. A veteran, just by serving in the military, does not get an exemption. They have to have a disability status with the VA, either 10%, 20%, but if you're 100% total and permanently disabled, you are in effect not paying any ad valorem taxes in the state of Florida. 100% of your ad valorem taxes are exempt if you are a total and permanent veteran. So all of them again relate to being elderly, widow, widower, or disabled, or a veteran, disabled veteran. So the homestead exemption is $50,000. Okay, that's $50,000 off your assessed value. Assessed, so you have the market value, then your assessed value, then your exemptions to determine your taxable value. That $50,000 is in effect in two different bands. The way they approved the homestead exemption in the state of Florida, the first 25,000 of value of your home is exempt from taxes, ad valorem taxes. The second 25 is not. The third 25 is also exempt from taxes. So if you have a home that's assessed value is $75,000, you get the full $50,000 exemption off your taxes. 75 and above, you get the full 50. However, that second 25, when they passed it in 2008, is not an exemption for school taxes. You only get a $25,000 exemption for school taxes. And school taxes comprise about 1/3 of your total taxes. When they instituted that second 25, the state did not want to affect school taxes. So in effect, it is not an exemption for school taxes. And then obviously there is no exemption for anything above 75,000. Maybe you've heard about Save Our Homes. Okay, Save Our Homes, basically, once you establish homestead, so you're a brand new homesteader in 1/1 of 24, okay? Every January 1 thereafter, we're going to value your property again. And hopefully that value is going up, just like Mike showed from 2020 to 2023. But if you have homestead, your assessed value for tax purposes can only go up by a maximum of 3% once you've established homestead. So if market goes up 8 or 9, you can only go up a maximum of 3. The law is consumer price index or 3%, whichever is less. And there have been years in the past where it's significantly less than 3%. So one of the biggest complaints, I would say, from our property owners is this particular example. Okay, on the right is, first of all, these two homes are identical, same lot size, same year built, same square footage. But the lady on the right bought in 1993 and established homestead, and she still lives there. So she's been in that home for 30 years. So once she established homestead, she's capped by CPI, no matter what happens to value. This happened to be a very desirable neighborhood near downtown St. Petersburg. The house on the left was bought in 2020. Cap reset to market value. So the house on the left, 2022 tax bill was $4,700 plus. And the house on the right, same house, same square footage, same lot size, $767. That is one of the inequities, so to speak. New home buyers go right to market. That's state law. But if you're in your home for 30 years, you benefit being a longtime homesteader in the state of Florida. You're only paying assessed value less the exemptions, and that assessed value is minimized to an increase by CPI. And that was instituted in 1992, that Save Our Homes cap, because what was happening is prices were rising, similar to what was going on, what has been going on in 2020 through 2023, and people were getting priced out of their homes and property taxes. So the Lee County Property Appraiser said, well, why don't we reward longtime homesteaders in the state of Florida by limiting how much their value can go up for tax purposes in a rising market, and that's the advent of Save Our Homes. So you can see over the last 14 years or so, CPI is on the left. Okay, because so consumer price index, it's always a consumer price index of the previous year. So 2024 will be based on the consumer price index of 2023, more than likely based on inflation. And we know about inflation, most of us do. It's going to be 3% again, because the CPI is going to be higher than 3%. So it's capped at 3. So that'll make 3 years in a row of a 3% increase, 22, 23, even though your CPI went up by 7, 6.5, and it will be something north of 3 for 2020, for 2024. But you look at some of the other years back after crash of real estate, you see a CPI of 1.7, 1.5, 0.8. So those longtime homesteaders, their value for tax purposes haven't been going up very much, even though their market value is on a rocket ship pace, or has been for the last 6 or 7 years. Transfer of property, brand new home, brand new purchaser, you're a new owner. That property resets to market value January 1st. And that will be based on not only your purchase price, but purchase prices of similar homes in your area on the sales approach. So this gives a quick example of how Save Our Homes works. So what we did is say, okay, the year after purchase, the January 1, we valued your property at $300,000. Assessed value is $300,000. Okay, so there is no difference. But if market rises 5% and CPI is maxed at 3%, what happens over time, year 2 through year 7, you develop that gap. So after 7 years of a 5% market rise and a 3% CPI, you have about $44,000, the 402 less the 358 in year 7, that you're not paying taxes on as a homesteader, because you're taking assessed value less exemptions to determine your taxable value. So you're benefiting, like that same woman from 1993, the difference she's not paying taxes on with a market value increase. That's called your Save Our Homes benefit. As a homesteaded property, you are not paying taxes on that difference. So what happens is during a rising market, your assessed value is limited by the CPI, the market's going up. But when the market comes down, your assessed value is still going to go up by whatever that CPI is. And if they ever meet, which they did in about 2011, when the market started coming back down, a lot of properties assessed equals market. Assessed can never be greater than market. If market comes down, assessed rides with it, and it shows riding with it year 5 through 6. Market takes off again, the assessed value only goes up by CPI. So most of you out there would think, well, everybody homesteads their home because this is a great benefit, right? Well, only about 64% of our homes in Pinellas County are homesteaded. Well, why is that? Certain people don't qualify for homestead. Okay. If you have a homestead benefit or a residency-based benefit in any other state or in any other country, you are not eligible for homestead in the state of Florida. For instance, if you're a Canadian citizen and you want to keep your Canadian health care, that's a residency-based benefit. A lot of homeowners in our county are from Canada. They are not eligible to homestead their property. So they don't get that benefit, not only of the exemption, or the Save Our Homes benefit. What they have is a 10% cap. That was instituted in 2008 that said, it's really not fair to our businesses, to our non-homesteaders. They're getting priced out of their properties as well. So we're going to institute a 10% cap. So if you're not homesteaded, your assessed value can only go up by 10%. Even if market went up 20, you can only go up 10. You're not paying on that difference, but similar to the second $25,000, you're paying school taxes on the full market value. They didn't want to hurt the schools as far as for budgetary reasons. So you will be paying full school taxes on the market value, even though the assessed value is capped at 10%. Now, that gap remains just like a homestead until the change of ownership. And a change of ownership could be as simple as adding someone else to the deed. Okay. So it's not just selling your property. You can't transfer your property to your son or daughter or aunt or uncle or mom or dad and keep that cap. It goes away because it's a new ownership, even though it wasn't sold. Now we'll get into portability. We talked about now with the homesteaders having that gap, right? That they've earned over the years of being a longtime homesteader. They can take that with them. They can take that difference with them to another Florida property if they homestead that property within 3 January 1s of their last homestead. Okay, so let's say you bought a home from somebody who was a longtime homesteader in Florida in 2023. January 1 of 2023 is their market value, and the assessed value difference, that difference they take with them. January 1 of 23, 24, and 25 is 3 January 1s. So by 1/1/26, they have to homestead another property in Florida in order to get that difference that they had on the one they sold carried over to the one they bought. If they wait till after 1/1/26, they've lost it forever. You can't get it back. So it's a benefit you can take with you. Again, the legislature said, all these people in Florida, they're not incented to sell, because if they sell and then buy a new property, all of a sudden that new property goes to market value and their taxes skyrocket. Why don't we give them a benefit that they can take with them? And that's what they developed here, but it is capped at $500,000. That sounds like a lot of money, but you would be surprised how many homes in Pinellas County have a differential of greater than $500,000, especially with the latest market run up in value. So you can take it with you. If you downsize, you get a portion of it. You don't get it all. If you equal or upsize, and that's just market value the year you sold compared to market value the January 1 after you bought. If they're equal, you get the full port. If the one you bought is lower, you get a percentage of the one you bought over the one you sold. And if it's greater, you get all of it, and subject to that $500,000 maximum. This sounds very confusing, but if you sell a property and you homestead another property, just apply for portability. We take care of it all for you. We have all the numbers of every county within the state of Florida. We get the information, we take care of it for you. All you got to do is, if you're filing online, is check a box. Yes, I want to apply for portability. Or if you're filing here in one of our offices, we will know that your previous property, if you say it was homesteaded, we will have you apply for portability and take care of it for you. Again, that's the next January 1 that you get that benefit after you bought. And here's an example of the 3 January 1s that you do have. Portability, when it was initially put into law in 2008, only had 2 January 1s. So if you sold at the end of that first year, you really only had about 13 months left to establish a homestead. And that caused problems for people who were buying a newly constructed home or condo. If that wasn't ready, that next January 1, they lost their portability. So Mr. Twitty recognized that. He championed the bill that expanded that one more year, that passed in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. 2020. Okay. That bill passed in 2020. Now you do have a full 2 years, even if you sold at the end of that first year, because it's now 3 January 1s, not 2. So that was a big benefit for the taxpayers of the state of Florida. This notice hopefully looks familiar to you. You should have received that around August 23rd or 24th. That gives you an idea of what your taxes will be come November 1st. And about 2 weeks from today, you will have a little surprise in the mail from the tax collector, which will be your tax bill for 2023. As Mike pointed out, if you have a mortgage, that bill also goes to your mortgage company. They pay the bill. They pay it in November to take advantage of the full 4% discount. Okay, so there's nothing you need to do if you're escrowing for taxes. Okay, they will automatically pay it and take advantage of the discount. This trim notice, basically, we are done with our values. We know if you're a homesteader or not, or have other exemptions. So we're applying the exemptions to those values and to save our homes cap. If you're a homesteader, CPI was 3%, assessed value only went up by 3%. And then all the numbers, let me go back, sorry. All the taxing districts are down on the column 2 that take those values, those taxable values, times those millage rates to determine your taxes. Those millage rates are the proposed millage rates by the taxing authorities. Some of them go down once their final budget hearings, and their final budget hearings just ended late September. A few of them went down a little bit. So the yellow column is your most likely taxes but it actually, in most cases, went down just a little bit for everybody once those final millage rates were set by the taxing authorities. And you can look at your trim notice right on our website. You can pull it up. You can pull up your tax bill on our website. There's all kinds of great information on our website. Anything and everything to do with your property, permits, deeds, et cetera, are all on a website available for you to view, print, and do with it what you wish. All kinds of information is on our website. The informational supplement that came with your trim notice, it tells you, please, if you haven't filed for homestead yet for 2023, when you got that trim notice for 23, you still had 25 days. We go all the way to September 15th. If you miss that September 15th date, there's nothing we can do about 2023. Your first homestead will be 2024. Tax estimator. This is a very great tool that is we instituted, Mr. Twitty instituted in 2017, his first year in office, that gives you an estimate of what your taxes will be if you bought a home in a particular year. So if you're contemplating buying a home now, you can enter the address or enter the city, whatever. If you're not sure if you have an address yet, enter in your estimated purchase price, and we can estimate for you what your taxes will be in 2024. Okay. What we use is the average value compared to your purchase price of 86% in our tax estimator. We take your purchase price times 86%, whether you're going to homestead it or not, and we can show you what your taxes will be. So that lady in that similar home was only paying $800 in taxes. If somebody paid, the market value on that home was probably $350,000. If somebody paid $350,000 for that home, those taxes are going to go to $6,000 next year, or $5,000 from $800. They're not going to be the same. A lot of people think they're going to be the same. Market resets, but our tax estimator can show that for you, so you're not surprised before you buy. And if you're dealing with a realtor right now, I encourage you to ask your realtor to run the tax estimator for you on a particular property that you're looking to put a contract on. It's a very, very helpful tool and avoids a lot of surprises on November of 24 if you're buying right now. So again, all you need to do is put in the address, the purchase price, and then it will spit out an estimate of what your taxes will be the January 1 after you buy, or the year after you buy. And now I will turn it over back to Mr. Twitty to wrap it up with the new website. And thank you for your attention, and good luck to you. Thank you for coming.
All right, I'm trying yours again to see. Are you getting signal, Kyle? Yeah. Okay, I think he was just muted before.
Yeah.
Transmitter. All right. Well, great job, Kevin. So as Kevin pointed out, we do have a new website. Been working on this for a few years to try and get it right. So our old website, if you Okay, how about now? Signal? Okay. All right. Sorry about that, folks. Obviously, we have a troublesome transmitter. Um, so starting over again. So we've been running our new website in parallel with our existing website, or we'll call it our legacy, our old website. That was at pcpao.org. The new site is running at pcpao.gov. So here coming up very soon, we'll be migrating over to, well, literally, if you're still running the old site, one day it's just going to redirect you to the new site. So highly encourage people to go ahead and get familiar with the new site. It's mobile friendly, it's fully responsive, um, and gives you access to so many more tools and pieces of information that are not available on the old .org site. So we developed it to cater to not only our property owners, but also the people that actually are on the site daily. So 70% of the users on the website are returning users, and those are mostly people in the real estate industry. So there's some form of real estate professional, whether they're a realtor, whether they're in title, lending, uh, real estate attorneys, or any kind of attorneys often use the site. Construction industry, it's amazing how many people use the site. People that want to snoop on their neighbors, we have all those people use our site. Um, so a lot of great information there. Now you can, when you do search the site, the search is up front and center. When you land on the homepage, you don't have to go through any cumbersome menus. You can always use the drop downs, but you don't have to. You can go right into your address, owner, parcel ID, and subcondo search right off the bat. It's got a great new feature too for those that are in the field. For example, if you're a realtor and you pull up into a driveway or construction, if you're going to put a roof on a house and you're pulling up, and a lot of people in construction, they want to verify who really owns the house because they don't want to enter an agreement to do work on a house, and maybe they're just the tenant. and and then now the owner of the property might get a construction lien. So they want to verify that they're actually talking to the property owner. So they can do that quickly by hitting the My Location button on the page. And if you're on a location enabled device, so your cell phone or an iPad, it will pop the parcel detail information up right there. So no waiting, no hassles. Let's see how much time we got. We're already at our 1 o'clock mark. So um, we've we've done a couple of live demo sessions that are on our YouTube page for those that want to dive into the website and learn a lot of the bells and whistles inside of there. I also frequently, for realtors, I show up at the Pinellas Realtor Organization and do more of a deep dive and show them kind of the tips and tricks under the hood, the power tool features that will really help them do business with their clients and help them serve the public in a better way. So encourage them to check that out. Let's just jump into our FYIs here. So anybody that is buying or selling out there, highly encourage you to tap the buyer and seller fact sheet that is available. You'll see speed buttons on the side of the website that will say when buying a home or when selling a home. That will give you some great tips there. And there's a PDF that you can pull down with this flyer as well. It's a great thing for realtors to hand off to their clients when they're shopping. Other ways you can follow and stay in the know with what's going on in our office. You can sign up for our e-newsletters. We have 3 different flavors of it. So we have one caters to homeowners, one for real estate professionals, and one for business owners. And the business owner one is periodic. It doesn't fall on the monthly, but it caters to those that are responsible for paying tangible personal property taxes on their business equipment. But all of those newsletters, we include timely information based on the time of year on that tax roll calendar that we were talking about. So we'll tee up important information that you need to know at the right time. You can also follow us on Facebook. We also provide timely information there on social media. And then we have our YouTube channel where we are always putting up the latest public education sessions. You can go back and check those out. Website help tips. We're breaking up some of our website sessions into more digestible, quick little help tips as well. And then obviously we have our monthly virtual public education sessions, and we frequently get out in the public. So watch for us. Anything that comes up publicly that we're allowed to invite people to, we will also publish that information. So these are just a sample of some of the public education sessions that we've done in the past, and we recycle some of these a couple times a year, depending on time of year and the need that we feel. Our next one coming up will be November 30th, and we'll have our in-house counsel, Alex Luca, who's also our exemptions director, will be presenting the majority of that presentation. And that will be called In the Weeds with Deeds. So that will be very helpful for real estate professionals, whether they're in lenders, title, realtors, can be very helpful for them to understand tenancy issues and things about trust. Alex is able to answer those questions, being an attorney and our exemptions director, so he can give some great insight there. So good thing for people, even homeowners, to listen in on if they're thinking about changing some of the ownership on their deeds, adding somebody on, what the impact might be, those types of things. So that'll be a great session. That will be November 30th. I wish I had that on a slide here, but unfortunately I do not. So mark your calendars for that. Kyle, our communications manager, will be getting that up posted on the website within the next 24 hours. So you'll be able to go on there and register for that session. And with that, I'll close out. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Oh, we do have one other tip we can leave you with today. So our clerk of the court has a property fraud alert service. I always like to try and pitch this because it can really save people a lot of heartache. So I highly encourage people to sign up for this. It takes literally about 20 or 30 seconds. All you do is go to that link there at the bottom. You can just search for property fraud alert, or you can go straight to the clerk site and look for property fraud. And they have a tool that you can sign up. All you do is enter your name and you enter your email address. And if anything comes through public records with your name on it or a close match, you'll get an email alert with the OR book and page link, so you can check out that document to make sure that that's really you. That's something that you're doing, as opposed to somebody that is creating a false deed and maybe trying to ultimately steal someone's property. So highly encourage people to do that. I've done it myself. You get notifications periodically, and then in my case, it was actually something I did. So you'll see things for, you might engage with a contractor and they file a notice of commencement for the start of that project. That ends up coming through public records, and you'll get a notice. You might have satisfied a mortgage, or you might have refinanced. All those things can trigger those documents being recorded. So highly encourage people to do that. Literally, very quick thing, and it's free of charge. So you'll hear these types of things advertised on the radio. You don't really need to do that. You can come on here and do this free service through our clerk. And with that, thank you very much. Thanks to Mr. McKeon for helping with the presentation today. And thank you, Kyle, back there pushing the buttons and getting us back online again. So thank you all for being here in the room and online. Be sure to join us again in November, on November 30th. That'll be at noontime again. And we appreciate you bearing with us through a couple of our technical difficulties today. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Thank you. Nice, please. Yeah, we need to take a picture.